Hello everyone, and we are back. Today we're doing a little bit of investigative journalism, and that is because we're going to be talking about agitated animals in savage biomes. Now, I didn't realize this is a fairly new mechanic. Apparently, this is only in the Steam version, so if you've been playing an earlier version, this doesn't even apply to you at all. So go ahead and skip the video now if you'd like. So it is actually a very important and pretty well-developed part of high savagery embarks in the Steam version. So, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of research on our own. I'm going to have all these links in the description so you can do your own reading. As of this video, I was not able to find much on the actual Dwarf Fortress wiki about this yet. So we're going to just go to the community pages and talk it out. I'm going to be reading from some of these sources, and we're going to talk about the mechanics. The footage you're seeing is me just going completely ham on a savage embark with constant giant agitated animals. And we're going to talk about how you can survive that. Per usual, my main advice is to cheat. Use DF hack just to get your foothold and anchor in there. But we'll talk about legitimate ways to deal with it as well. So let's just define our terms. What is agitation? Let me start at the beginning. So agitation is a mechanic, much like how when you cut down trees, the elves in the nearby area will become more and more aggro, will become more aggressive. Animals now will do that themselves, and when they get the agitation marker, it seems that they spawn in waves, specifically. That seems to be a recurring thing that I've seen myself and that other users are mentioning. So it'll spawn a group of animals that have the agitated token, and you'll know that they're agitated because it'll say that. It'll be part of the description. So for example, you're going to see in this footage a lot of agitated giant hamster, agitated giant blue jay. I'm not sure if them spawning as giant is connected or, exactly how these mechanisms interact with each other, but at least on this embark, I am constantly getting giant and agitated animals. And all that agitation means is that they will be more likely to start a fight, to beeline at one of your dwarves as an aggressive animal. And so ways that you increase agitation. Chopping down trees is a major one. Fishing apparently used to be a really major one, but they tuned it down. I'm seeing reports. It seems that they tuned that down because fishing was very quickly causing aggro. And you'll see in this case, this embark I chose is the most beautiful, luscious forest, and we're just clear-cutting trees. Mining does also apparently increase it, basically any changes to the map, and apparently fishing as well. So it's almost like if you played Factorio, which by the way, let me know if you'd like me to do a video about Factorio. I've been thinking about doing it. It's a really fun game, but it has a very similar mechanic where anything that you do will kind of increase the likelihood of the creatures in your area being angry and starting fights. And killing animals especially, I forgot about that, but killing animals also increases agitation, so you'll kind of get into this feedback loop where your animals are starting fights and you're killing those animals, and then that's immediately causing more agitated animals to spawn and make more fights. One thing you're going to see in these sources is that if you can get a grip on it, if you can get the bull by the horns, or, if you can get control, then this becomes an incredible source of just constant meat and leather. Because, at least in my version, I have not had trouble caging even giant agitated animals in most cases. So this is something we learned from previous videos. But so giant as a modifier does take into account the original size of the creature. So if it's a little small creature like a blue jay, for example, or a tick, I have successfully caged these, but I think that's because as a giant version of a tiny animal, it's still within the cage limits. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that for example, a giant undead whale or something like that, I don't think that would fit in a cage, but at least in my case, because most of the giant agitated animals have been giant versions of birds and insects, I have still been able to cage them, and you can still train them apparently. The agitation token doesn't go away, but it is a great source. It basically, if you can get control of your map, you can have an embark which is constantly feeding you animals for training, for meat, and for leather, which, can be pretty nice. Okay, but enough of my speculation. Let's go to the community for even more speculation. So this first source, and again, check the description for all of these, the Bay 12 forums, you can see this is a new feature. The earliest sources I have go back to late 2022, around when the Steam version was ramping up. So this topic says agitated boars Quote, it's a complete brawl. All the boars are agitated and are fighting my dwarves. I'm noob. There's also many agitated white stork. How did this happen? First answer says, might be related to woodcutting. I seem to recall Toady mentioning it in an interview. Destroy the natural habitat of the wild boars, expect them to get upset about it. Make some crossbows and see them off with hunters, I guess. Someone else mentions, agitated animals are a new subtype introduced with the Steam release. I suspect they're meant to represent the occasional animal attack that settlers in our world dealt with in the past. It seems likely, but I can't confirm, that there are more of them in Untamed Wilds regions. I would say it definitely scales to savagery. In fact, I have not seen an agitated animal in a biome in an embark that was not savage. So I'm not sure. Maybe they can appear in peaceful ones, but I haven't seen that. And then this is what I was talking about with fishing. Another commenter says, apparently fishing upset the wildlife quite a bit in 50.01. This was nerfed in 50.02. So probably just wood cutting now, that is to say, which aggravates them, or paving over the entire map. Someone else chimes in, says, I've had no agitation from digging so far, and I dug out quite a large chunk of the surface. Now, whether or not that person is referring to a savage embark, that's up in the air. But so that's from the Bay 12 forums, which are, often the most knowledgeable old school players tend to congregate there. So with that said, I also have Steam forum threads about the phenomenon. The OP writes, agitated animals. What's up with all the agitated wildlife? Creatures that are normally pretty benign suddenly go berserk and start attacking dwarves. Not even hunters. My current fortress may be a complete loss after a group of large emus went berserk. One of them managed to kill 5 dwarves and has gained enough combat experience that its stats are all through the roof. I'd expect this sort of behavior from creatures that are predators, but these things are acting like the elephants from Boat Murdered, which is, as far as I know, was never intended behavior. Boat Murdered, that's a very classic reference. I had to learn about Boat Murdered. That was even before I learned about Dwarf Fortress. So let's see. And then commenters say, for the Steam release, they added a thing for savage biomes where wildlife starts attacking if you hurt their habitat, and they might have overdone it a bit. Just for the record, animals can only improve physical stats, but not combat stats, such as dodging and kicking. That was interesting. I didn't realize that. So is that true? I'm asking my comment section again. If your dwarves fight an animal, they won't get better at swordplay. They'll only get better at dodging and kicking and things. Anyway, I'm not sure. These are all just random people commenting, so they're possibly even less reliable than me. So take everything I'm reading with a grain of salt. The agitation mechanic, this is what I'm quoting again. The agitation mechanic was supposed to supply low-grade threats for players who weren't at war with anyone. Currently, I'd say that agitated animals are far more deadly than any invading force simply because they never stop. My guess is that the mechanic wasn't tested enough, or there's a bug that severely increases the agitation in less time than it would normally take. For now, I'd avoid anything labeled wilds. The caverns all seem to have the same affliction too. I've done nothing in the caverns but breach them, and that line act was enough to instantly spawn an army of steel-clad fishmen. I immediately resealed the wall. Now this is a good one. This is from the Reddit community for Dwarf Fortress, and this one is a little more scientific, a little more attempting to figure things out, not just kind of guessing. And so the title is Savage Biomes and quote-unquote Agitated Mechanics Explained. And they say, so I did some experimenting and tried to find out exactly how the agitated mechanic works. Basically, it's similar to elven mentality, except in this case, it's wildlife itself that takes its revenge on you. When you cut down too many trees, not sure the exact amount, animals will become agitated, meaning they will path directly to your dwarves and kill them. Animals that would normally just run away from getting too close to your dwarves will now instead intimidate your dwarves. Animals don't become agitated if they've already entered the map and you start chopping down trees. But once they leave, the new ones that will enter in the agitated state. I can confirm this. They do seem to, agitated animals tend to spawn in from borders of the map, and then they're permanently agitated. It's like a token that doesn't get removed, and it doesn't get applied either to random animals. It's when they spawn in, and they seem to spawn in with waves, you'll get a batch of agitated some animal, as is procedurally generated. Continuing to read, it says, it can easily be abused as well. If you can set up cage traps in the entrance to your fortress, they will automatically get caged, and a new group of animals will be spawned, meaning you can farm wild and exotic animals this way. That is a very excellent point. So the main way that I got a handle on the map that you're seeing, this footage, is I put cage traps everywhere. I put cage traps just absolutely everywhere. And some of this footage you'll see as well. And then you just occasionally pit a ton of agitated animals to get rid of them, basically. You process them, but just at every possible bottleneck, and you create bottlenecks, just lots and lots of traps, and especially cage traps. Continuing to read, agitated animals can still be tamed. It doesn't seem to affect it in any way, and this can be a great way to grind the animal trainer skill. I hope this helps. I was personally having issues with these biomes. If you don't understand how it works, then you will be in for a very rough ride. The top comment says, I've heard mining and fishing can also agitate wildlife. So again, there seems to be some People aren't really sure if mining and fishing affect it at this point in the latest version, and if so, by how much in each case. And then, so the top commenter also asks, once they become agitated, do they eventually stop if you stop cutting trees, or are you stuck with murder animals for the rest of the playthrough? OP answers, they eventually stop. I don't know about mining and fishing. This is interesting. It requires more testing. First response to that says, Tarn/KitFox acknowledged that there was a problem with the agitation mechanic. Fishing would rile the animals up way too much, resulting in too much fun too early. They tuned it down, but I guess fishing still agitates wildlife a little. And then, yeah, someone else says the fishing was a bug that was fixed. So fishing seems to be confirmed to agitate. Mining, I have not seen anyone specifically confirm that anecdotally that mining affects it, but so that's still an open question. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh no, this is very interesting. So someone left a comment in another Reddit thread called Agitated Wildlife is Unbearable. And they say there's a setting in difficulty, custom, called something like Agitation Decay. There's a few numbers there. Mousing over will give you a description of what they mean. You can increase one value to 100,000, and I haven't had another attack in a few seasons after an elite year of back-to-back attacks, which that sounds like what my map is doing. So there you go. If you still want to have a Savage Embark, but the agitation is bothering you, you can apparently tweak it. Let me see if I have anything else from these sources. Here's another Steam thread that says, what the blank are agitated animals? Quote, I embarked for the first time in a likely savage environment because all the animals had agitated before their species name. Instantly, 3 of my dwarves get rushed by agitated boars and die. Flocks of agitated giant wrens patrol the skies, threatening my surviving dwarves. That is something that I'm really having trouble. Well, so this map just has lots and lots of giant agitated birds. You'll see in this footage what we ended up doing is we train everybody on archery, on using crossbows, and we have a big tower so they can get up to an appropriate Z level and shoot, and that's been pretty good so far. Also, being up so high also tends to draw the birds in towards the tower, so that helps as well. Let's see, are there anything else from this what the blank thread? Oh, well, that's a funny story. I'll read this. So, quoting one of the responders, they said, I had a bookbinder get his head ripped off by an agitated giant hamster, and another bookbinder punched the hamster's toe off and gut punched him until it covered the entrance to my trade depot with hamster vomit. He then bit his leg off before the woodcutter finally killed the giant hamster with an axe. And then some actual advice. Someone writes, if you're playing in an area like this, there is no substitute for just up and building walls around a reasonably large area and using a drawbridge with the controls nestled deep within your fortress to allow trade caravans in and out. Also, tons and tons of cage traps. While building the wall, and especially while expanding it later, I suggest stationing your militia near the worksite at all times. I would agree with this in general. I will say, you'll see in this footage, my trade depot is kind of just out in the open. I'm not being that careful. But then again, I am cheating. So how I would do it, I guess that's great advice if you're not using DF Hack. I just turn on Fast Dwarf so that my dwarves tend to like ninja teleport in and, ninja slice up any agitated animals. But you'll see, that's why I get up to like 10 agitated animals. The game is just flooding animals in. We are teleporting in and ninja filleting them immediately in response. And it has been a great source of meat and leather. But, I'm a cheater, so maybe you don't want to be like that. And my friends, I think that's all I have to say today. If you made it this far, don't forget, all interaction is really appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe. All of that really helps my channel. And we are almost to the point where I can get monetized, so that would be super. Thank you so much. Definitely, especially in this case, I really would appreciate comments with like anecdotes about your experience with agitated animals in the Steam version, because it does sound like these are all kind of open questions. The community is not yet sure exactly how these metrics work. So, if we can do a little journalism here ourselves, that's fantastic. That's, why I do these videos, is to increase the player base knowledge overall. So, really appreciate any insight, funny stories, anything you got, and I will catch everybody soon. Catch you in the next video. Getting closer and closer to adventure mode debut, and really looking forward to that. But in the meantime, stay safe, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.